Female psychology is something many followers of this channel should already understand to some degree, and if you've been following us, you'll know by now that women are extremely passive in their approaches, often using cunning techniques to try and see if guys like them before risking any possible embarrassment. However, one subject that few people seem to understand and often struggle with is that of knowing when a girl likes you and how to approach situations where women truly like you. Today, we won't be focusing on what you should do if you notice she likes you, but rather determining what she'll do to show you that she likes you. These signs are often very subtle, so make sure to follow along. Why are women subtle about liking someone? One of the most important things you need to realize is that the way both men and women approach dating and relationships vary greatly. You see, men are naturally less patient, and they want things to happen immediately. It's often due to this need for things to happen immediately that they push things too far, too quickly. On the other hand, women are extremely cautious about their own reputations and how they'll be perceived by the world. Yes, this might not matter to you, especially if you don't fret about the opinions of others, but the ego of a woman is generally the same as a glass window. This means that it could break easily, and she might be sent into a downward spiral. Since women have fragile egos, rejection always remains the one thing they cannot seem to tolerate, which means that it is something they will try to avoid. Women would want to be sure about the guy also liking her equally or even more to some degree before they choose to make any move or reveal their feelings. Thanks to years of living with these fragile egos, many women have adopted cunning and often sneaky ways of testing the water. However, they'll also give signs that they like you, simply because it's human nature, and we can't turn off the way we feel about something or someone. As a man, it's your responsibility to pick up on these signs, and this is where many men fail. Today, we will explore some of the most common sneaky techniques or even subtle suggestions women might use to indicate they're attracted to you. It might take some time for you to get used to these things, and since they happen all around you every day, it's easier to turn noticing these things into something of a habit. Let's dive in. Number 1. She becomes nervous or agitated around you. With the first one, it's very important to note that a woman's personal confidence is something that could potentially affect the way she shows you if she likes you or not. An experienced and confident woman will often be upfront about her feelings and risk being rejected, but this confidence only comes from being older. You see, younger women will feel slightly intimidated by the person they like, especially if the connection is extremely fresh. Instead of directly telling the guy, she'll often be nervous around him, which stems from the fear that he might not be on the same page or even feel the same way. This nervousness can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. You might notice her seeming a little uncomfortable until you say something that makes her feel like herself again. Or you might even find that she cancels dates due to the fear of the date not going to plan. Yes, this can be very frustrating, but it's something to take note of. In many cases, she might completely just stop responding for a while, whilst she's trying to focus on whether you feel the same way. In fact, many of those notoriously frustrating tests that influencers talk about are born from the fact that she's nervous. Finally, the nervousness might manifest itself in clumsiness, and you could see her being a little clumsy in the way she moves and the things that she's doing. To many men, this might be cute, and they often chalk it up to just something she does. However, this clumsiness is certainly a sign that there's some attraction happening. Once you notice some of this clumsy behavior, you can reassure her, or you might just make her feel comfortable. The last thing you want to do is make her feel even worse about these things. Number 2. She might even avoid you at first. Falling in love with someone or even being drawn to another person creates a lot of internal confusion, and this is seen among many women as well. Whilst some women will want to spend as much time with you as possible, there's a very big possibility that others might not feel the same and might not be willing to engage as much. You see, a woman who has had to endure a lot of trauma in her life might avoid you at first, and it's this avoiding behavior that creates some of the mixed signals that can be very confusing to men. However, one of these can be when she avoids you or even ghosts you. In fact, it's happened on many different occasions that a woman simply disappears for a while to figure out these feelings, and since the guy doesn't understand this, he'll continually pursue her. Oftentimes, pursuing her can make her feel overwhelmed, and the guy might think she's not interested and focus on trying to push too hard. The moment things don't turn out as planned for many men, they become insecure, and this will allow her to see that you're weak, and she might even pull away to avoid you and the possible relationship. It's often best to allow her to pull away and for things to go their course. What you'll find is that eventually she might get a grip and reach out again. The more you understand the power of patience and why you often need to sit back for a bit, the better your results will be with women. It also varies depending on the woman, and not everyone operates in the same manner. Number 3, texting responses improve. One thing you've probably noticed nowadays is that women rarely spend a lot of time texting. In fact, the whole texting epidemic the world is facing is slowly dying down, and nowadays everyone's overstimulated and don't need to be constantly texting. This is amplified when it comes to many women, and since they're constantly bombarded with text messages from men, they often stop responding, or their response times turns from hours into days. The reason for this is that women simply don't have the need or the time to reply to every guy messaging her. However, if she likes you, this will all change, and you can easily find that she'll want to talk to you as much as she possibly can. You see, the reason for this is simple, and it's due to the fact that we always want to be close or even talk to the person we desire. This is actually a part of human nature. If you like a woman and she likes you, the conversation should naturally be flowing, and this also means that she's more likely to respond to your text messages in a timely manner. Whenever you notice this happening, there is a good possibility that she's somewhat attracted to you and that she's finding you interesting. Adding to this point is the fact that you could find her even reaching out to you or being the first to start the conversation. This doesn't seem like a big thing, but once you gain some perspective and understand that very few women actually open up conversations, you'll notice that this is kind of important, and it also does matter. Once you notice this, you should not play any games and simply respond when you have the time. This means you should not be purposely ignoring her or even trying to extend your own response times. It's better to simply go with the situation and focus on responding to text messages in a way that would keep her engaged. You see, women only want a man who's willing to engage and who will actually put in some effort as well. Yes, this does mean that you might need to relearn the skill of texting. But since it's one of the best subtle signs, you should try to capitalize on it and see if any of the other signs in this video will also come to the forefront. But this isn't the only thing to note about texting. Aside from faster response times, you'll also notice that women tend to send longer and more meaningful texts. Since this takes a lot of time, you should appreciate this. Number 4, she invites you to meet her friends or family. Another often missed sign that men tend to take for granted is when a woman is inviting you out to meet some of her friends and family. You see, women tend to keep men away from their loved ones as a way of making sure that nothing becomes complicated, and to ensure that she has a way of walking out without consequences. For this reason, a woman who allows you to meet her friends and family has already accepted the risk that things might not work out and things will be a little more complicated. The upside is that she has some hope, and she truly likes you if she's inviting you out to meet them. Additionally, she's now also forcing you into a situation to receive confirmation about her own thoughts about you. Since her friends and family are not as involved directly as she is, they have the opportunity to screen you and check to see if there are any potential flaws that she might be missing. With so much trust now put on your shoulders, you can be sure that there's some attraction, and that she willingly wants you to fit in and even get along with those she holds dear. This is a big compliment and should not be overlooked, as women consider this to be one of the bigger steps to having a successful relationship. Number 5, she will always want to be as close to you as possible. One of the big issues you often have to deal with is the fact that a woman who likes you will always want to be in close proximity to you. You see, whenever you go out and she likes you, you become the number one person for her to trust. It's this high level of trust that makes you become the safe haven she wants to have as close to her as possible. You'll notice this happens in various ways, especially when it comes to physical situations. Many men have noticed she will force her way close to you and even try to sit on your lap if that's needed to be close to you. Whenever you're talking, she'll constantly look at you, but she'll also look to see how you respond to others and mimic these responses. In fact, a woman who likes you will want to be the same as you in many situations, and it's this level of similarity that often shows how much she likes you. Additionally, the girl who likes you will want to talk to you as much as possible. This means that she might even purposely ignore those around her in the same group conversation. These signs are extremely prevalent in new relationships. Number 6, her behavior is different around you. Another very important thing you're bound to notice is the fact that her behavior might be different when she's around you, especially when compared to how it is with other people. You see, not being around means you might not be able to gauge who she is and how she operates. But when you are around, you'll see a specific version of her. Whilst you might not notice this change in behavior, those around you are sure to see that she's different when you're around, compared to when you leave the room. If it happens that the feedback you receive is how you are positively affecting her mood, this is a small sign that she's interested. In fact, you always want to be the one who has such a positive influence on her. But the opposite can also be true. It's often best to seek out the opinions of others, and you might quickly realize that she's a different person when you're around. Since we can't control all the subconscious behavior, we often project on others. This is one of the best ways to figure out just how much of an effect you can have on her. Number 7, she finds reasons to spend time with you. When it comes to the world of dating, one of the most critical things you'll notice is that a person who truly likes you will seek every excuse to be around you. You might have noticed in your own behavior that you have the constant urge to spend time with someone if you truly like them. Now, the same is also true for women. And when you notice that she's coming up with various excuses to spend time with you, you can be sure that she actually likes you. On top of this, she might even seek excuses to touch you as well. This means that she could gently touch your arms or your hands as a way of establishing physical contact. However, most women will simply just seek every possible excuse to spend time with you, and some might even take it as far as trying to lie if they are to actually spend some real time with you. Women are not as mysterious as you might think, and whilst their actions tend to be far more subtle than those of men, they still can't hide the fact that they like someone. Once you establish this, you need to understand how to take advantage of these things. We would recommend checking out one of our videos on how older men often court women to make sure you know how to correctly seduce a woman.